Welcome to my high voltage hustle.
Oh my god, 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 oh my god.
You'll see me bid on my parts car. Woo-hoo! And you'll see this gorgeous mini truck come alive. Well, before you start tearing it apart, stop. I'm Bailey. I'm an educator, builder, and DIYer. And in this series, you'll join me as I rip apart a Nissan Leaf and install its electric powertrain into a 79 Datsun mini truck. I've wired a lot of powertrains, but this will be my first EV swap from start to finish. Come watch me learn as I go and laugh at my mistakes. So plug in, grab some popcorn, and join the hustle. What up, crew? I am back for another lecture style video. This time I really want to go deeper dive into EV safety. It'll be a mixture of me here on these title slides and me in my OEM vehicle, which is a dual motor Model 3 Tesla. So in this video, we're going to go over some core electric vehicle safety knowledge. One, the most important thing, and I know I'll start sounding like a broken record because I'll say it over and over again, is how to disable high voltage. So we'll go through that. And then I want to deeper dive into the fail-safe systems that already exist in electric vehicles, because I think that dispels some of the negative media or understanding that we have of the dangers of EVs. And then finally, I want to go over some common high voltage faults that you may see, get scared, and you shouldn't worry. So let's get into it. First off, in order to disable and feel like it's safe for you to touch an electric vehicle, you need to perform a live test. So first things first is you need to open the 12 volt circuit. So take the fob or the key, move it far enough away, or the phone so it can't re-engage the car. Open the 12 volt circuit by disconnecting the negative or positive terminal on the 12 volt battery, even if it's a lithium ion. And then now you need to open the high voltage circuit. And remember, for all of this, you should be wearing PPE. This is the only time that you have to wear those stupid gloves. So you open the high voltage circuit. On the screen here, you can see an example from a Nissan Leaf. And an important thing, and the reason that we wear our gloves and the reason that we do this is what it says in the bottom of that image. Wait at least 10 minutes for a complete discharge of the high voltage capacitors. Because of that reason, that is exactly why we wear PPE and we live test before we take our PPE off, because there are capacitors that can either passively or actively drain, and they could take, with 400 volts or 800 volts, they could take many minutes in order to drain all of that stored energy. So if you're having a vehicle roll through your shop, then open the high voltage circuit, go do the customer paperwork, put away the keys in a lockbox, and then 10 minutes have gone by, and then you can do your live test. So what you do for a live is you take your multimeter, and we'll talk about CAT ratings in a moment, and you're going to test your multimeter on the 12 volt battery. Make sure that you get 13.7 or whatever the spec is for that 12 volt battery. Then you're going to go over to the high voltage component that you want to work around or touch or disassemble or uninstall, and make sure that it's truly dead and there's none of that capacitance left. So you go over to the dead component and you put one lead on the positive, one on chassis, one lead on the negative, one on chassis, one on positive, one on negative, and make sure that you're getting 0 volts every time, every which way to Sunday that you test that component. And if you're really worried, you can test multiple components. If the compressor is near the suspension that you're going to work on, you just want to do the compressor. But if you're working on the whole traction system, you might want to do motor side, battery side, and do a bunch of that. But you can do live testing all over the vehicle if you're really worried. Then, after you've made sure that you're getting 0 volts on a high voltage component, then you're going to go back over to that 12 volt battery and make sure you're still getting 3.7 on your meter. Why? Why do we do that? Because you could have been getting 0 volts during the dead test because you blew the fuse in your meter and you actually have live voltage there. So you always go back and make sure your meter is still working properly so that you can trust that those 0 volts measurements were truly 0. Boom, now you can take off that stupid PPE and you can sign off that it's safe for someone else to touch, and nobody has to worry about wearing all of that gear while they do their normal maintenance and service. Another important thing I want to talk about when it comes to a live dead live test is actually, hold on. I know that all y'all have one of these cheap ass cat, what is this? Oh, it's actually a cat too. I'm a little surprised, but I know we all have the $10 Harbor Freight multimeters, right? But if you look over here at cat 1, even if this was cat 1 to 1,000, which it is, that's impressive. If we divide 1,000 by 30, which is the test source impedance of this meter, that is still, think Ohm's law, that is still enough current to be extremely dangerous if I were using this. So when we're working with high voltage systems, we want a higher cat rating so that we are protected from like inrush current, spike current, lightning, direct shorts with really high current. If we have a meter that's rated to handle those spike current, then we are safe even if we're troubleshooting something with that meter. That's why we invest in a nicer cat rated meter. This one here is cat 3 at 600. I actually even recommend cat 3 at 1,000 because if you're planning to work in heavy equipment or commercial, if you have a cat 3 at 1,000 meter, you can be pretty sure that you're protected on passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, all sorts of things. So if you're looking to buy a new meter, I highly recommend that you get a cat 3 at 1,000. If you're only working on passenger vehicles, a cat 3 at 600 is also fine. And the reason that this is important is we want the amount of current that this component is going to protect us from to be really high. So if I divide 600 by 2, I am protected with up to 300 amps of current. Now a cat 3 to 1,000, I'm protected up to 500 amps of inrush short circuit current. So you can see like, oh, why don't I get a cat 2 at 1,000? It's a lot cheaper. Well, 1,000 divided by 12 is a lot less current you're protected from than 1,000 divided by 2. So cat 3 is the way to go. Please ignore these leads. I wanted to use my Tesla as an example of some intrinsic safeties that are baked into OEM vehicles. So let's go ahead and get this baby into service mode. Now, of course, there's like an even deeper, like paid diagnostic version of this. So you'll notice I do have some locked out features, but this is enough to show you around. So got myself into service mode. I'm going to acknowledge the warning and it allows me to enter. Where I really want to focus this video is around high voltage. So we're going to come into the high voltage system. The thing that I want to show off is HVIL, high voltage interlock. I love this stupid, like it reminds me of the old Prius graphics where it was showing you stuff coming into the battery. All of these, core 3 high voltage components, like our front motor is here. I'm assuming this is our high voltage compressor HVAC. And then we also have our battery system and then our rear motor, because this is a dual motor Tesla. So the HVIL flows through all of these core components and their connectors. And as long as it has continuity, our vehicle can run. Now, in that video, I don't really think that you were getting like 480p res over there. So I wanted to do a freeze frame and show you the values, but you can see that HVIL is constantly measuring an expected voltage given a certain resistance, and it's ensuring that throughout the entire car and all those high voltage parts, it is meeting the expected values plus or minus 25%. So anytime that any of those connectors are opened, those tiny little pins are opened and then HVIL breaks. And so this is also where the fireman's loop that a first responder may cut in an emergency, it's actually just HVIL. So firefighters aren't cutting like live high voltage cables that can hurt them if they don't have insulated cutters, cable cutters. It's actually just cutting HVIL. And the moment that HVIL or high voltage interlock is open, then the entire high voltage system shuts down. So firefighters and first responders don't have to worry about buying those $600 insulated cable cutters when they go and do emergency work with EVs, because those firemen's loops that they're designated to cut in the NFPA emergency response guides will just open the circuits and keep first responders safe. Now, the next thing that I want to talk a little bit about is you can see here about ground fault monitoring or isolation monitoring devices. Even here in service mode, you can see the high voltage resistance is a measurement that the vehicle is constantly measuring. But when I put it into drive when it's in service mode, then now it is going to actually calculate the isolation resistance of the vehicle. And you can see here that it's 4,480 kilo ohms of resistance. And what that is basically it's proving that the high voltage is floating and there's a really high resistance between it and the chassis ground. So the FMVSS Federal Safety Standard number 305 says that we have to have at least 500 ohms per volt of resistance in order for a car to be road safe. So at the bare minimum, a 400 volt Tesla, that number has to be at least 200,000 ohms to be considered road safe and to be considered like keeping the passengers safe. But as you can see from this number, 4,000 kilo ohms is actually 4 million ohms. So it is way floating. It's high up in the sky, up in the clouds, keeping you safe. And it is constantly monitoring if that high voltage is slowly leaking somewhere that could harm the passenger or the technician. So I wanted to show you that to dispel the fear we have about, oh, my kid's playing in the garage and I'm worried they're going to get electrocuted while my car is charging. Like, absolutely not. Your car is making sure and will shut off and isolate high voltage if that resistance falls below a certain threshold. And we as humans can't even get hurt from it unless it's less than 200,000 ohms. So you can see 4 million ohms, your child, undoing the charger and sticking their fingers in it, all of those things that you're worried about isn't going to actually harm anyone. So ground fault monitoring, keeping you safe all the time. This is a beautiful slide I've got here for you. It's charger handshake step. But I wanted to show you when I talked about how when the vehicle's plugged into charge, it's grounded to the house. And so therefore it's sharing the ground fault monitoring of the breaker in your house. And so you can see here, thanks John Kelly for making this diagram. You can see here contact 3 is protective earth, but protective earth of the AC system in your house, but also chassis ground with the car. And so once you plug in your charger, that's why if you ever see where the breaker pulls in your house, it could be a grounding issue because the car becomes part of the circuit of the house. So just wanted to show you that in case you were curious about what I meant by the handshake. Then another place I wanted to show you is that it is constantly in all the systems in the vehicle monitoring that high voltage isolation resistance. So this is just another photo in another part of service mode that is showing you that the high voltage isolation resistance is in good working order. The last thing I wanted to talk about is that your vehicle has this pyro fuse. So upon impact or really just if any sort of crazy thing happens to the car, there's this pyro fuse that basically opens. And so if there was a collision, you wouldn't want the high voltage to still be on and worry about, getting your kids out of the car seat. And so that pyro fuse upon impact will open and then the entire high voltage circuit is disabled. So right here, you can see the pyro state is in good working order, but rest assured that when you do have a collision in an EV, all EVs have this same extreme safety measure to keep you and your family safe inside the vehicle during a collision. And then finally, the last thing that I want to talk about are common high voltage faults, because all of these ones that are on the screen are really scary faults. So the car won't go into ready mode and it says that it's a high voltage isolation fault. The car won't charge and you see the charge port says ECU offline and you're like, oh my God, this is so expensive. I'm gonna have to get a new charger. Sudden loss of power on the road. All of a sudden it derates your motor and there's an inverter fault and you're like, oh my God, forget this EV motor, it's trash. Coolant loop warnings. I think one of the scariest besides high voltage isolation fault is a battery over temp fault. That's terrifying. I do not want to see that on my screen while I'm driving 90 down the freeway in 110 Phoenix weather. And then other ones that are more five senses or don't necessarily have a fault code is like if you heard clicking noises under the car, like what we call contactor, not contractor, chatter. And then your BMS or the battery management system of your high voltage battery refusing to wake up. So all of these things are really scary, right? Guess what? They're all caused for one reason that isn't dangerous at all. Your 12-volt battery is dead. But it is terrifying to see a battery over temp or an isolation fault and you immediately panic, or even as a technician, you see it and you're stumped. Check your 12-volt battery, especially where I live or in cold climates. The most likely cause is the control circuit. Your 12-volt system is like the OS, the control circuit of your whole car. So if it can't send proper voltage signals to all the core high voltage components, you're going to get high voltage faults, but it isn't a high voltage issue. So I wanted to remind people of that because those kinds of faults are really scary. And the first thing that I would always do is check your 12-volt battery because the 12-volt is the OS. It controls everything. All right, I hope that helped cleared up and was really useful for you. I think if you are going to be interacting with electric vehicles and doing a little bit of DIY at home, Fred in the shed, or service and repair, you need to know how to disable and de-energize high voltage. So if you have questions about how to do that or you want me to practice live, I'm happy to do so. And then for those of you who are more on the consumer side of EVs, I wanted people to know about the fail-safe EV systems so you don't have to be freaked out about all the stuff in the media that people say about EVs being really dangerous. What about accidents? What about these crazy high voltage faults? Well, there's tons of just intrinsic fail-safe systems that exist in EVs to prevent all of that. And I hope that this dispelled some of that fear. So if you like this video and you want more of this style content, let me know. I could talk 4 days about all of this stuff. So just let me know what's interesting to you. I'm always still planning more episodes. If you liked it, like that button or press the thumbs up, smash that subscribe, all the lame things that YouTubers say. Thank you so much for being here. Once I start working on high voltage, I probably can't wear these metal frames. I'm gonna have to find a new microphone mount.